The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
You're listening to UCW Radio. In your face.
Welcome to another segment of UCW Radio, and this is your host, Lou, a.k.a. Falcon Coparis. And it's Tuesday, and trust me, it's hot out. Today on the show, we're going to have a one-on-one with female rocker Alexx Calise. This girl is one that you have to watch out for in the world of rock, even crossing over into pop. And now, without further ado, let's get Alexx Calise on the phone.
Alexx, welcome to UCW Radio. I want to thank you in advance for taking time out of your busy schedule to speak with us today.
Well, thank you very much, Lou. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, great. Now, we're going to start from the beginning. That's the best place to start. I guess I'm going to have to be a little canned. I hate doing it, but I have to do that at first, just so that our listeners can get acquainted with you the way they should. Now, most talented musicians, they start at an early age. At least they begin to find an escape and a talent that they discovered. We're just going to stick with music because that's the topic here. And they find their voice with music. And they develop that talent sometimes. Now, when did you have that moment of discovering your talent, and were you just a natural, or was it something you had to develop over time?
Well, first and foremost, I've always been a writer, fiction, nonfiction. I just have always, had that, I've always been a voracious, reader and writer. So it just seemed natural when I was about 11 to pick up the guitar, and I also did to emulate my father, who's a musician. And it was a great way to accompany my writing, my lyrics, recitations, what have you. I found that was my true calling. It's a great way for me to, for my voice to be heard, especially by, accompanying it with music.
Oh, well, you just developed a segue for the next question, which is great. You're a singer, you're a songwriter, period, the end. Do you find it natural to do both of them, or would you just prefer one over the other?
Ooh, that's a tough question.
Hitting you with the tough ones now.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough question. I love both so very much. Songwriting, it's so natural for me. I just get it. I can't even describe to you the feeling that I'm overcome with when I'm about to write a song. Like this whole warm feeling comes over my body, and I just have to get that creative energy out. And it's such a magical, almost spiritual type of feeling. And there's nothing that really compares to that. But I have an absolute love for singing as well. I sing everywhere I can in the shower, while I'm driving in my car. It's just, I love it. Words can't even express, how much it means to do it,
But, so singing pretty much gives you that vehicle to express your words, verbally.
Mm-hmm.
More or less. Okay, that's good. So when you really can't choose one over the other. Then you enjoy both of them. So that'd be a hard choice for you to make.
Yeah, the only thing that I don't like about singing is actually recording it, because I'm so hard on myself when I'm actually recording. I just oh man, I have to do this again and again, and I want to make sure it's perfect. So that part of it I don't enjoy, but I love the actual performing aspect of it when I'm actually out on stage, and I just can't even describe the feeling that I get from it. It's a vehicle, like you said, for which to express my lyrics,
Well, you connect with your audience, you connect with your fans, and it's kind of like it's a natural high. I know what it is to be in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people, and it's a natural high, and that's probably where you're at, and that's great. At least you have that vehicle to do that. Alexx, let's go into something. Let's go into where you grew up. You grew up in Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're out. You call California your home right now with Arnold Schwarzenegger and the whole crew. Do you think that if you stood in Florida when you were young, you were 11, you started playing, you were writing and you were playing music and you started singing and everything. Do you think that if you stood in Florida, that you would have pursued music as rigorously as you are right now?
Well, I've always, really pursued it. I've been pursuing it professionally since I was about, 14 or so. But the problem with, living in a smaller town or a town like Florida, first of all, it's definitely not the mecca for music, or, not rock music specifically. But, after a while, you just hit a wall, there's only so, you can only do so much in one place. And I lived there for, maybe 18 years or so. After a while, you get to know everybody. Everyone knows you. And I just wanted to take it to that next level. And, when I came out to LA just to record my, a portion of my first record, I just fell in love with it. And I started working with some great producers out here. And I just found that, people are more understanding of artists out here. And there were just so many places to play and so many, this is, where the entertainment industry rests, this is the whole nesting ground for all of that. So I figured this is probably the place to be.
You have more opportunity there than you would in Florida. And I do understand, in Florida, you have limited growth potential.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's understandable. Now, Alex, your music genre is alternative, pop, rock, but it really splits into the rock arena, but you can go pop. That I do know. Now, what would you classify your music as? And second question is, what were your two biggest influences in your style of music?
Oh, okay. Well, I classify my music more, I guess, rocktronica, I guess you could say. It has the electronic elements, pop elements. I started it, working with this producer named Luigi Gonzalez. He's actually produced, Madonna, Shakira, a lot of Latin artists. He was up for a Grammy a few years ago. He's a Grammy nominee. And I just found that when the both of us worked together, we created a really cool, different kind of sound because, my influences, to answer your next question, are very, very grunge influences. Early Nirvana, Silverchair, the Toadies, who else? Buck Cherry. They're more rock, but I like a lot of grunge music, and obviously he was very pop because he's working with all these big pop artists. So I found that we really complemented each other, and we created a sound that was very unique and different, yet it was commercially viable enough to be played on terrestrial radio. So yeah, I think it's very different, but I'm actually, on this next record that I'm actually recording, I'm going more, back to my roots. It's more lo-fi than my past album, and I'm doing it completely 100% by myself, and I'm actually engineering it all myself as well.
Oh, then you're versatile. Check you out.
Thank you.
What's the name of that next record of yours?
As of yet, it's still untitled, but it is definitely, it revisits my grunge roots a lot more so than the last record did. My last record was more, pop rock. This one is going to be, of course, still pop rock, has all the pop melodies, but it's a little darker, and, I'm doing it 100% by myself. I'm producing it with the help of my songwriting partner, Dennis Morehouse, and, yeah, it's just, it feels like it's more me. It's a better vehicle for, to express myself, I guess, than my last one was.
Okay, well, you have all these say on what you do and what you don't do, and sometimes that's the best way to go.
Right.
I think, Alex, you're going to like this next question. You're going to find it more interesting, I think, anyway. Okay, female rockers, all right? Some of the greats include Janis Joplin, Blondie, Joan Jett, Heart, and Shirley Manson, Garbage. Now, that girl, she brings a badass for beauty designs rock. Now, I'm sure you have been asked this 1,000,001 times in all your interviews, but I have to ask it. Do you find it difficult as a female rock or a female artist to push higher in music, especially at, in the rock segment, as opposed to a male rock singer?
Well, actually, I've been asked this question several times, and it's a very interesting question. I just find that, if you're a good artist, you're a good artist. I don't think being female by any stretch of the imagination is some kind of a handicap like some people make it out to be. When you're talking rock music, I mean, those artists that you just mentioned, like Shirley Manson and Joan Jett and Hart, I mean, I've seen most of them live, and they just nail it. They're just good musicians, and a lot of them would blow male musicians out of the water. It's just, I think it's your level of talent. The only, I guess, roadblock would be you have to have an immense amount of talent in order to be a female rock musician, because there are stereotypes that do exist about women and everything like that, and you just, I think, have to play a little bit, a lot harder, practice a lot harder, and just give them one hell of a show, in order to be taken seriously. But, that has never affected me or stood in my way, because I've always just played because I like to play, and if you don't like it, then you don't like it. I don't, that doesn't affect me, A
lot of people out there, and everybody, I guess they have their own taste in music. That's why I mentioned Janis Joplin or Shirley Manson, because these are, female rockers that really, they did their thing. You liked them, you didn't like them, they still did their thing. And they weren't so much interested in the critics, they were interested in playing their music. And that's pretty much where I see you, is looking at your songs, listening to your songs, looking at your perform, that's where you're at, I think. Now we're going to swing into another interesting question. When you look at pop music, you find a lot of up-and-coming cookie-cutter types that producers, they're basically spitting these kids out just to take advantage of the time. Granted, some enjoy immediate success, no doubt about it, but the longevity factor just isn't there a lot of times. And the potential of them falling by the wayside is pretty great. Now, what are your thoughts on the topic? And the second question to that is, how do you find yourself different?
How do I find myself different from that?
Yeah, but more importantly, what are your thoughts on the topic?
Oh, okay. Well, you know what? I just think, with all the cookie cutter bands and everything, they find a certain, they're successful with one act, and then they figure that, they're going to be successful with a whole bunch of other acts that are very similar. So they'll produce them up all the same and write very similar songs, and they expect them to sell very well. And for a short time, yes, they usually do. But, that's what you were saying before. The longevity is just not there. I've heard a lot of, artists on the radio that I'm just like, didn't I hear that song before? Or, I heard it sung a little bit different.
Oh, yeah.
But,
that I agree with.
Yeah. It's strange. I was just talking about this with my songwriting partner the other day. Even all of the songs that I hear today, it's just years ago, songs, and I think that it's become so diluted that they just don't even know what to write anymore. Like people don't even know what hooks are anymore.
Yeah, that has to do with the songwriting. When you're writing some lyric, which is more. I mean, I guess sometimes you see these songs are more geared towards doing a commercial than towards making a real song. Something, and you talk about the hook and everything. Sometimes that's all they have is the hook, and that's it. Some of these songs don't have anything, no substance, nothing.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that the bottom line these days is just, especially for these record companies, which are not doing very well right now. It's all about the dollar, and they just want to make a quick buck and get out. They don't really care about artist development these days. They're just trying to save their butts, if you will. Everyone's just concerned about keeping their jobs.
Yeah, well, you can't blame them, but what happens is that now this breeds opportunity for young artists that are talented to actually get out there and really do something. okay, and then the flood of all these cookie cutter talent popping out left and right, you know, I mean, things like that, and just in your case, I don't see a comparison between you and them, those types of performers. I'm not going to call them singers, but performers. You know, and I know I asked you the question, how do you find yourself different? You don't really have to go into that too much. I see the difference. I think our listeners understand the difference. You know,